Investing has become too fun. Gamification is costing new investors in ways they don't even realize. Back in the day, old school brokerages, Vanguard, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, they were not exactly inviting to new investors, but they did dominate. Going to these sites, you would experience paralysis by analysis. There's tons of information, there's jargon, there's candle charts. It's intimidating to new investors. And in a way, that was a good thing because you want to know as much information as you can before you make an investment, especially a big investment into a company. So these were all roadblocks, yes, but a lot of them were helpful roadblocks. Compare this now with Robinhood. It's clean, it's sharp, it has a beautiful color scheme. It has the bare minimum information. When you start scrolling companies, you've got three things. You've got the ticker, you've got a pretty red or green line, depending on if it went up or down that day, and then you've got the stock price. It's very simple, easy to understand, easy to just pick a company and buy it. Robinhood is fast and it's frictionless. They want more people on their app and they want more people making more transactions. Whenever you download the app, they let you get trading right away with up to $1,000 before your money even settles. It makes it so easy. Whereas that first roadblock of waiting for your money to settle is actually a good thing because you might be running on high, downloading the app, you're excited, you want to just make that first purchase. Robinhood allows you to just make it. You don't have to wait for your first $1,000 to settle. They also offer you free stocks if you invite your friends. And then the moment your friends put money into the account, both of you get your free stock. So then you've got the little bit of a gambling element. You might get a stock worth $10, $100, $1,000. Makes it fun. Robinhood also makes more money the more trades you make, which is statistically bad for investors, especially new investors. The more trades you make, the more losses you have. And one of the main ways they've accomplished this is by eliminating transaction fees. In many ways, this is a great thing. It's become more inclusive to investors with less money to invest. If I was gonna invest $100 a week, I would get hit with a $15 transaction fee. That's a 15% loss right off the bat. I'm not gonna want to invest unless I'm investing $1,000 at a time or $10,000 at a time. That way, that $15 fee doesn't hit me as hard. So in that way, Robinhood removing transaction fees is really great. However, there is a negative side effect. It's one less roadblock. It allows people to buy and sell. And statistically speaking, the more you transact, the more losses you have. Jumping in and out of transactions too quickly, making tons of stock buys and sells is bad for three reasons. First, if you do have a positive gain on a stock transaction, you're going to get hit with capital gains. Second, you don't have explicit fees, but there are invisible fees, which I'll get into later. And third, you have less care when you're buying and selling. If you don't have to pay $15, then I don't mind buying this and then, if it doesn't quite go right today, I'll sell it and maybe I'll buy back in tomorrow. Whenever that $15 fee was there, it would be ridiculous to buy $100 worth of stock and then sell it that same day and then buy back in later that day because just with 3 trades, you're losing $45. That's 45% loss on your money. Nobody does it. And it's difficult to care more when the mechanics of buying and selling are just so easy. It's very conducive to impulse buying and selling on a whim. And the more transactions that you perform, the more profit Robinhood makes. Every time you or I do a stock transaction, Robinhood sells that transaction to a market maker to fill the order. Robinhood doesn't actually fill these orders for all the people that are trading stocks. The market makers do it, and the market makers make money off of the transactions, and Robinhood gets a rebate. Okay, so what is a market maker? Market makers are like a distributor. Think of Walmart. Walmart's willing to purchase 100 pallets of ramen noodles, even though there's not a buyer that wants to buy from them exactly 100 pallets of ramen noodles. They know that there's a lot of small buyers, and they're willing to break that order up into a lot of small orders. Market makers do the same exact thing, and they can do it both directions. They're not only taking big orders and breaking them up into small orders, they can do it the other way too. They can take lots of small sellers and lump that together into one large buyer. Market makers are providing liquidity. There's millions of different sizes of orders at different times, and everybody wants to be able to buy and sell in an instant. Market makers allow that to happen, and then they move what you sold to the next person. Now, market makers are providing a service and it is risky, so they get paid to do this. So how do they get paid? This is the invisible transaction fee that I spoke about earlier. This happens through the bid-ask spread. Essentially, you have a stock that's worth exactly $100. If you want to buy that stock from the market maker, they won't sell it to you for exactly $100. They will sell it to you for a penny more, $100.01. If you wanted to sell that stock to the market maker, they're only going to buy it from you for a penny less. That's $99.99. In this case, the bid-ask spread is 2 cents. It's a pretty small spread. So every time you buy and sell that stock, you're either selling it for a penny less, buying it for a penny more. You're losing a little bit of money. You're not really going to notice it. Now, the more risky a stock is, the higher the bid-ask spread. Let's say there's a stock that's incredibly volatile and there's not a ton of buyers and sellers. This is going to be more risky for the market maker to pick up your shares or sell your shares. So they're going to make a larger spread. Robinhood gets paid in the form of rebates from the market makers. So the more money a market maker makes, the more money Robinhood makes. So if Robinhood can influence you to buy more risky purchases in some way, then they will also make more money. And it's not just new school brokerages like Robinhood that are having a negative impact on new investors. There's also a new investing culture that has risen from the ashes of the pandemic that is exacerbating the problem. During the pandemic, people were forced to stay home. They couldn't spend their money at bars or restaurants or activities. They had extra cash that was burning a hole in their checking account. And then on top of that, people received stimulus. So what are they gonna do with all this extra money? People began flocking to online investing communities like Reddit, Wall Street Bets. It's crazy and it's exciting. I can't lie. It is entertaining to go to Reddit, Wall Street Bets. You've got memes. There are stories of people losing millions of dollars. There's stories of people making millions of dollars. It's just so much more entertaining than the responsible investing communities like Bogleheads, for instance. Look at the difference here. As I'm scrolling through Wall Street Bets, I'm seeing pictures, seeing stories, there's emotion. And then when I scroll Bogleheads, it's just a forum, just link after link after link. It's just not exciting. When you live in a climate of people and you're surrounded by a culture of people that treat investing like sports betting, it is so much difficult to remain responsible and boring with your investing. So what does boring look like? I will borrow from the most iconic investing book of all time called The Intelligent Investor. This book is praised by the most famous investors of all time, like Warren Buffett. Basically, investing should be divided up into exactly 2 categories. You've got your active investors and your passive investors. Anything in the middle becomes suboptimal. If you're passive, then you are not willing to do a ton of work researching companies to pick the best ones. In fact, you're better off doing 0 work if you're passive, picking 0 companies. The passive investor statistically gets the best results investing in 100% passive index funds and ETFs. And this super passive investor will do better than somebody who's in the middle, who's doing a little bit of research and picking some companies. They will outperform this middle ground investor. And then on the other side of the spectrum, your active investor is going to do a ton of work researching, and a lot of people would call it boring. I don't think it's boring, but it is certainly less exciting than chasing the next meme stock on Wall Street Bets. They're only willing to do 5 minutes of research and read some headlines. They're on a course for disaster. I, for one, really enjoy the process of analyzing a company, looking at the cash flows and the balance sheets, but it can be tedious. So in order to save myself some time, I developed an automated spreadsheet that I use to calculate the intrinsic value of a company. If you're interested, check it out right here. Catch you on the flip side.